Are you listening? Damn.
Good afternoon, everybody out there in YouTube. Zach from Blackhouse Vapor Company.
And Alec from Blackhouse. And what we're looking at today is pod systems, specifically pod systems that are meant to be refilled with your own juice. If you're interested in pod systems that just come with pods that come pre-filled, and you just pop them out, pop a new one in as soon as they're done, you can take a look at the Fix review that I did a while back. That is an awesome device. I still stand with that being one of the best pod systems on the market. And we'll cover some more of those other pod systems in some upcoming videos. But for this one, it seems like these guys are gaining a ton of traction, the refillable pod systems. So we're going to go over 3 of the most popular ones right now: the Mi Pod, the Suorin Air, and the Suorin Drop. All 3 of these are going to be very similar, but have just enough differences to, I think, merit doing a video like this.
Yeah, I definitely think that you're going to want to know. They're very few, the differences, but they might make or break it for your experience. So let's get into it.
Sweet. Okay, so first things first, these are all perfectly packaged, so I guess we got to take them out of the packages. Ooh. The proper device for the job. Let's go one by one through what comes in the package. So in the Mi Pod package, open this guy up. You're going to get right on top a user manual, a little warranty card. Can't speak to SV's warranty. Not sure how great they are with those. But inside the box, we're going to get 2 of the Mi Pod refillable 2ml pods. We're going to get the Mi Pod system itself, which we will go over in just a moment. A little foamy plastic guy, and it looks like inside of this little filler you are going to get, ooh, what's this? A
fancy
little
cable.
Wristband and a super fancy cable and the delicious little vanilla scented packets.
So next up, we got the Suorin Drop. Let's pull this guy on out of his sleeve. All right, got a little side opener. Got a couple different color options. We're going to be reviewing the brushed stainless steel one here. Got your system, tip atomizer right there. So underneath this super easy to open package, we got standard caution card. Lets you know a little bit about the charging tip on your Suorin Drop. Inside we have a nice cable, ribbon cable for you to charge, micro USB. And in the secret component, we have your instruction manual. Boom. And you also have the all-important certificate and warranty chip. So, yep, that is the total contents of your Suorin Drop.
Last one we're doing is the Suorin Air here. This is going to be the credit card shaped guy inside of the box. Interesting, the first thing that I see when I open it up is going to be this little caution card, which is telling me to let my tank, once I fill it, to sit for 5 to 8 minutes. Very thick manual for how simple this device is. Many languages, I guess. A USB charging cable and the Air itself. So that's all you get in there. So the next thing, after opening up all these packages and showing you guys what comes inside of the packages, we're going to fill all of these and see kind of which one is the easiest to fill. So the Suorin Air just got one silicone plug on there, and you pop this guy open. Huge plug, wow. And you're going to fill the Suorin Air through this little hole. There's only one fill hole on the Air, which worries me a little bit when it comes to
getting that nice clean fill.
Getting a good clean fill without air bubbles or anything like that. But that's a really big fill hole. Actually, that is super easy. I'm not gonna lie, I am happy with that.
A surprising perk.
Yeah, that's easier than I thought it would be for sure. We'll just do that. I don't want to fill these entirely. And this is telling me the little instruction card at the very top of this box told me to let this sit for about 5 to 8 minutes. So I'm going to put this over to the side and we'll fill the other ones. The Drop, the thing that I do like about it is it's got 2 fill ports. It's got this little tearaway thing that's going to be protecting your contacts when you first get it. Surprisingly, I've really only messed around with the drop more or less, but the air seemed a lot easier to fill. The drop is kind of a process because those holes are smaller. Even though there's 2 of them and you get good air evacuation, it's just kind of a pain to get these to fill evenly and everything like that, whereas the air seemed like it was just super easy.
Yeah, and I can see if you had a thicker juice you were trying to fill this with, it would definitely be a little bit more of a chore.
Yeah.
But otherwise, nice, smooth, solid seal. No leaking or anything that I can see.
Seems good. The one thing that I did notice on the drop pods is that it separates your juice onto 2 sides, and sometimes one side will be vaping faster than the other. It's just wicked a little bit differently, and so it's a little bit difficult and can be a pain in the butt sometimes when you get unequal juice flows in that cartridge for the drop versus the Suorin Air. You just have one massive chamber for all your juice, so I don't think that is going to be as much of an issue at all. The Mi Pod is the last one that we've got to fill up. These ones come in a little silicone cover, little silicone case. You got to pull that silicone case off, and then once you've done that, you've got this little silicone plug at the bottom. You're going to pop that guy open, and this is where we're going to be filling on the Mi Pod. That's probably, of all of the fill holes, that's probably the smallest. See how it goes.
Juice it up.
Only one fill hole, and it's smaller than all the others. I'm a little scared. Actually,
It's force alone, but it works.
it's really not terrible, but it's definitely, like, it has some resistance. I feel like once you get up towards the top, might start to give troubles just because of how little air I'm evacuating out of there.
Requires a steady hand. This is not one you want to fill up under the influence.
Yeah, I mean, that was fairly simple, but definitely the smallest target to fill with that small of a fill port. So I would rate this in terms of ease of use when you're coming to filling these pods. I would go Air, Mi Pod, and then drop, probably.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. One thing to definitely take into consideration is the fact that 2 mils, depending on how much you're vaping, won't last that long. Even only with 13 watts, which is the most that these devices are going to put out, you're still going to go through 2 mils fairly quickly. So take into consideration how easy it is to fill these pods up, because that's a huge deal if you're going to be doing it consistently. And if you hate filling your pods, that's a big deal. That's actually one of the main reasons I don't personally use my drop that much, is because I just don't like filling it.
Yeah,
it's a pain. We just finished loading up all the systems, and now we're going to do hit tests on all of these to see what they hit like and to give you guys our kind of final thoughts on the devices in terms of how they hit, as well as our pros and cons for each one. So first things first, the Suorin Air. The only thing that we should be noticing here is the difference in the devices, because the juice is the same in each one. So.
Yep.
Pretty light cloud, but definitely a really nice draw. Not too tight, not too open. Flavor's decent off of it. Coil doesn't seem to get dry super easily either.
Yeah, no, the nick hit isn't so bad either. I don't vape a lot of high nick juice. I'm a 3 guy all the way, but that's actually pretty smooth, so I'm kind of shocked I'm not hacking all over the place.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of the pod system guy in this situation, but that just goes to show you that these pod systems are easy enough for anyone to get into. If it's something that you're looking for convenience over maybe a larger cloud or more flavor, these devices can be for anyone. They don't just have to be for someone who's just coming off of cigarettes. It's really for anyone to have something that's just a little bit more convenient, size in your pocket, super small, vape all day on it, and you don't have to carry around multiple devices or a big device or anything like that.
Yeah, it is definitely way more convenient. I gotta give them that.
Yeah. Okay, so next one, drop. No on and off switch on this one. One thing I have noticed on both of the Suorin devices, sometimes they won't hit immediately when you draw on them.
Yeah,
you kind of have to
warm-up
pull
period,
a little
kinda.
bit harder or something like that, and I have heard that as a complaint from some people, that the Suorin devices are a little twitchy on their draw systems, whereas I've never had a problem with the Mi system not firing right up as soon as I draw on it.
That one's pretty smooth too, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it's a little easier of a draw actually than the Air. About the same on the throat hit with that nick.
Flavor seems
still,
a little better.
Yeah, flavor seems a little more pronounced out of that
I think
guy.
that this one just has a smaller actual opening for the vapor, and I think that's helping the flavor a little bit and making the draw just a tiny bit tighter, but
Yeah.
minutely, not really that noticeable.
Yeah, so the drop in the Air, pretty comparable thus far. I I think I get a little bit of a bigger cloud out of the drop, honestly.
Yeah, a little bit bigger out of the drop. That could be due to the fact that these coils seem to be just about 0.2 ohms higher, which could make the difference in that draw.
Small numbers, big differences.
Last one, Mi Pod.
You can hear it's more powerful just by the crackle.
It definitely is a lot louder, and it goes through a lot more juice. It's more open, but definitely a much larger cloud. Yeah, way more open. Much more like the Mi 1 in its hit.
I do like the way this one feels in hand, though. The shape is nice.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that one definitely hits the hardest.
Yeah, so out of the throat hits, that one's topping the charts so far. Not unbearable, like I said, as the low Nick dude out of the two of us. It's still manageable, but it's definitely you get more of that tingle in the back of your throat for sure.
Overall, which hit do I like the best? I think I personally I thought I was gonna like the Mi Pod the best. I think I might like the Air.
I do, honestly. The Air seems to be the best.
I think the Air has the best hit, but the Mi Pod hits much harder, and I think sometimes I'm going to be in the mood for that. So it's kind of a hard call for me between the Air and the Mi Pod. The drop is just a little too restrictive, I think.
Yeah. Not quite the performance you're hoping for.
And it seemed like it was a little bit inconsistent as well. It seemed like it was not firing quite as consistently with just the draw as the other two devices that we were looking at there. So overall pros and cons from my perspective, I'm going to go through these really quickly since there's so much to go through, and I apologize if I miss anything, but I'm going to try to cover all my bases. So Mi Pod for me, pros and cons. Pro, battery life, 100%. If you like a good throat hit, this is going to be more like the Mi 1 with that open draw, which definitely gives you more of a throat hit if you're using a higher Nick. The LED, which does actually kind of give you a little bit of battery information, as opposed to the Air, which doesn't give it any. Cons for me, probably the only one that I can think of is the vinyl on the outside. Seems like it's definitely going to peel off just like it did on the Mi 1. I expect that. It's not a huge con for me, but especially for someone who's more concerned with aesthetics on their mods, I would say that's kind of a big deal. One other slight con might be the fill port on the pod itself. Being so small, I wish it would have been a little bit bigger, but it wasn't too difficult to fill nonetheless.
My pros and cons on the Mi Pod, I guess I don't really have any real cons other than, being low Nick. The Nick hit on this one is definitely the harshest. So for me, that's a con. For everybody else, that might be a huge plus, though. Yeah, aesthetic-wise, this thing is definitely a pro. I like this microchippy kind of feel to it. It does feel like it is going to pop off at some point, so that's a slight negative, but definitely get the best vapor reduction out of this guy and the best Nick hit.
One tiny other con that I forgot to mention, but could be a con for you, this is definitely the loudest device.
Yeah,
out of all of them, this one
for sure.
definitely sounds the most like an RDA. Like this is the least sneaky of all of the devices for sure. So minor con, maybe not.
Depends on how sneaky you need to be when you vape, right?
Yeah. Suorin Air for me, pros and cons. Pro, the on-off switch, as opposed to the drop, you get an on-off switch. I like that. I like just having the extra safety features. I'd say this is probably the most discreet, as opposed to the Mi 1. This one has a tiny cloud and is super quiet. Probably the best for just all around. If you're trying to not disturb anyone with your vaping, this guy is a good hit. Cons for me, probably just the Suorin coils in general. They dry out a little bit faster and they're less consistent. I've had worse luck with the Suorin pods than I've had with Mi pods in the past, or even fixed pods or anything like that. So that's a light con for me. But besides that, I'm happy with this one, and it also has an LED indicator which displays your battery life. So another huge pro.
Yep, pros for me. The size has definitely got to be a pro. Like Alec was saying, this is the most stealth of the devices. You pull this out, no one's really going to know what you're doing with it. Again, fitting in your hand, very discreet, very easy to hit. Cons definitely have to be just performance-wise. This is the most kind of meh to me. You don't get that Nick hit that I'm sure some people are looking for. And as far as I'm concerned, just the vapor production, you can make it vape really nicely, but you got to kind of warm it up,
For sure.
So again, like Alex said, it's kind of a coil issue on this Air.
Okay, last device. Pros and cons on the drop. Biggest con for me, I'm going to start with cons on this guy. Biggest con for me is the fact that this is so heavy, and yet it only has a 300 milliamp hour battery.
That's quite hefty.
That's kind of crazy to me. I would expect this thing to have at least the same as the Air, if not a little bit larger of a battery. That's kind of disappointing me, but besides that, I don't have too many other cons for this. The only other con that I can come up with is same with the Air, just the inconsistent pods. Sometimes you'll get them where they don't hit very well, and if you ever drop these devices, these ones don't stand up very well to drops.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Air is so much heavier, it can do a lot more damage to itself by hitting a hard surface from 3 or 4 feet even. So pros to me are going to be form factor. I really like the form factor, super small, super sleek. Again, kind of like the Air. Going to be something a little more stealthy, not super loud, and I do like the flavor off of this one the best.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's not a lot of cons for me on this one other than the weight, just because, again, it is really heavy. All the tech is in the bottom half, so you drop this thing and it hits, bam, like that. You're pretty high likelihood you're going to have some issues after that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, flavor is fantastic. The nick hit is super mellow, even though this is really high nick. And I think the cloud that you get out of this little guy is really nice as well.
So overall, for me, my number one device pick, I'm probably going to go for the Mi Pod. I am going for the Mi Pod solely off of the fact that it's got a 950 milliamp hour battery, and I'm one of the people that hits devices like these all day long. So having a huge battery like this it's the only factor that really is the game changer for me. I love having that big of a battery in this type of device. So that's going to be my pick. What about you?
For me, I've got to say, if you're a low nick vapor, probably recommend the Drop. If you're a high nick vapor and you really like that throat hit, that Mi Pod's going to be your number one choice. If you're somewhere in the middle, Suorin Air, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Something for everybody.
Yeah, there you go. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big old like and maybe share it with someone who might enjoy it as well. We've got tons more videos coming on the Blackhouse Vapor Company channel, so make sure to stay tuned. If you're interested in any of these devices, you can check them out at blackhousevapor.com. And thanks for watching, guys.
Have a good one.
Are you listening? Damn.